You're now listening to the Interlocking NY podcast. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Interlocking NY podcast on this Friday, August 9th, 2013. I'm Brian Danoff, and as always, I'll be giving my thoughts on all the latest news regarding the New York Yankees. Find me on Twitter at BrianD_H4TV, and don't forget to check out my work over at h4-entertainment.com and yankeesfansunite.com. So I'm ready, you're ready, and in the words of Michael K., let's do it here on this edition of the Interlocking NY podcast. So, as I said, I hope you're all having a great day out there. I know the past week has not made that really possible, if you're a Yankees fan like myself. It's just sad to watch at this point. It's not surprising by any means. This is the way people expected the team to play back before opening day. And, I said in, my first episode of the podcast last week that I still felt fairly confident that the team could turn it around if they could take advantage of playing these two easy teams, the San Diego Padres and the last place Chicago White Sox. And, they'd win those series or possibly even sweep right through them. And they'd be right back in the race, have a respectable record once again. And let's just say none of that happened at all. Yankees lost 2-3 to the Padres and got swept themselves by Chicago, who, coming into that series, had lost 10 straight games. Let that sink in. 10 straight games they lost until the Yankees showed up and they ran right through them. Game 1, they got crushed by the Yankees. Game 2, they lost 3-2. Game 3, I don't have to really recap it. You guys know what happened. Yankees had the lead. Mo blew the save. They got back the lead in a Cano home run. Then the Yankees lost it in a flash with Adam Warren on the mound. It was... I just sat there with a smile on my face, just in disbelief. Like, really? They are just finding every possible way to lose. They're finding new ways to lose, to come, and I know this hasn't happened before, and on a far grander stage, 2011 Texas Rangers, but the Yankees were down, the Yankees had the White Sox down to their final strike twice, and they couldn't close out the game, and they lost. That is just insane to me to think about, I think this series finally woke up Yankees fans who were still hoping and believing that a playoff run was about to burst out from this club. Because now they are just one game over 500, 11 games back in the AL East, 7 games back of the second wild card spot in the American League. I think this finally made people realize the Yankees are not a playoff team. They are far too inconsistent. They can't score a run to save their lives. And to make what matters worse, the thing that was keeping them afloat the whole year long, their pitching staff, of course, primarily the rotation, is falling apart. When you can only rely on 2 out of the 5 guys in your rotation, chances are you are not going to win the majority of your games. So, CC Sabathia pitched better last night, or on Wednesday night, but he wasn't vintage CC, and still that is one good outing, after, some of the worst starts of CC's career. Andy Pettitte looks washed up. I'm an Andy sympathizer. I love Andy Pettitte, but he simply looks lost and old and finished. Of course, he's going to play out the season. He has too much pride to retire or forfeit up his rotation spot. And the Yankees have too much respect for him, which I can understand, to keep, to not take him out of the rotation. They're going to let him try to work things out all the way to the end, even if it's too late to make a playoff run or whatever. They're going to let Andy make his starts. They're going to let him go out the way he wants to. But he has just looked horrible after a few good starts, but they're really sandwiched in between a bunch of clunkers and first inning struggles and just getting bombed. And then you have Phil Hughes, who is mostly, struggling, and then at times he'll have a decent outing here and there. But the fact remains, Ivan Nova and Hiroki Kuroda are the only guys of late, Kuroda all season especially, that have come up big in the rotation. And, when you don't have a lineup that can score more than 3 runs a game, and you have a pitching staff where most of your starters give up at least 3 runs a game, that is not a winning formula. It's just been a horrible, horrible week for the Yankees. And as I said, I think people are now realizing the Yankees are not going to the playoffs. It's not happening. Anyone who wants to, say, oh, the 78 Yankees, the 07 Yankees, the wild card, that's what it's there for. We're only a few games out. Wake up, guys. Wake up. They're behind in the wild card. Tampa Bay, Oakland, and Texas, depending on who's leading the division. It's tied right now. Baltimore, Cleveland, and Kansas City. They are not better than any of those clubs I just listed. And, the idea to me that people are trying to sell me, don't give up yet. I'm not giving up, but I'm just being realistic. And, don't give up. The Yankees are going to be, fine. They're going to work things out. This is not the same Yankees we've all watched. There is no confidence in the clubhouse. There's no confidence in the upper management. Randy Levine, who I wish was not associated with the Yankees, he even came out and said, I think we can make the playoffs. I mean, hopefully we can. I mean, we need to play better, I guess. We could maybe make a run. He's not even sure. Hal Steinbrenner has been quoted as, we're just trying to get to the playoffs. They're not trying to win the division. That's all that's all lost. It's the Red Sox or Tampa Bay's or the Orioles division to take. The Yankees are definitely not winning the division. And in that light, focusing on the wild card, they are not going to get by, especially Tampa Bay and the A's, and the Rangers, and the Orioles, and the Indians, and the Royals. It is not happening. I think people need to wake up, and I think that they have with this 3 games, getting swept by one of the worst teams in baseball. Only the if I'm reading this right, only the Astros have a worse record than the White Sox. We basically lost to the American League. Well, I'm sorry, the Astros are in the American League, but we basically lost to the equivalent of the Houston Astros or Miami Marlins. That was the easiest part of the schedule, and they just pissed it away. So, and then you look back, they got swept by the Mets, who by all means are playing good baseball now, but back then the Yankees should have at least won a game or split the series. I always looking back to that Mets sweep, because that still kind of hurts. As I said, I'm not pissed. I expected this season to happen. I just get hot-headed when people say there's still a chance, because there simply isn't. And you look at their schedule now. Their upcoming schedule. The White Sox and the Padres were supposed to be the easiest series of the year. Now they come home to Yankee Stadium to face the Tigers, who have won 13 straight. Thank you very much. Then they play the Angels. I've been over the schedule before, but it doesn't get easy. It's Tigers, Angels, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Rays, Blue Jays, Orioles. White Sox, but who knows if they'll beat them again. The Red Sox, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Giants, the Rays, and the Astros. So basically, practically every series is They have a chance to gain ground, but I just don't see them winning them. I really don't. They haven't won a series in a month. They can't beat the worst teams in the league. It's just it's something, you know? We really have not seen a season like this in a very long time. And by we I mean Yankee fans, but myself especially, I have never seen a season this bad because I was born in 1998. I'm 15. I was born during the late 90s dynasty. I lived through and I watched the great, Yankees teams of the 2000s. They didn't win the World Series, but they made the playoffs every year. They won the division almost every year. They were a fun team to watch. They had great power hitters. Attendance was at its highest point. The Yankees were the most popular and the best team of the first decade of the 21st century. And it was a glorious time to be a Yankee fan. And, even when they missed the playoffs in 2008, I mentioned this in my last podcast as well, they were a good team. They only won 89 games, but, if you look back, 89 games the past two seasons has been good enough to make the playoffs. The Tigers won 88 games last year. The Detroit Tigers. In 2011, the Cardinals won 90 games. 2010, I'm just going through past standings. The Yankees were just, they were on the cusp. They weren't a horrible team in 2013, in 2008. This 2013 Yankees team is simply a bad team. And, you can make the excuses for injuries. You can point fingers at Brian Cashman and ownership for not bringing in players that really could have made a difference. But that, I think that period of frustration and lashing out is over because this is the team we have, especially considering all the guys who are injured have returned for this season. I mean, yeah, Mark Teixeira would have made a huge difference if he was healthy, as would Kevin Youkilis, but their injuries are for the season. Everyone else has come back now. Yes, David Phelps is back is still on the disabled list. Michael Pineda's had a setback, and of course Derek Jeter's gone back on the disabled list. But the fact remains that this team is as healthy and as full as it's gonna be, and they still just aren't good enough. So I think I don't know how the season's gonna end. I don't think it's gonna end well. I fully expect them to miss the playoffs. If somehow they went on a miraculous ride, hey, wake me up when it happens, but I just don't see it. And the most disappointing part about all this, which is the point I have to make, is that Mariano Rivera's last game might be in front of a half-filled Minute Maid Park on the last day of the season against the Houston Astros. I'm not saying the way you handle a season should be based on one player's retirement, but the team that they created, that they made up for this season, that is so bad and so far out of the playoff race, to do that to Mariano Rivera and have him not be able to pitch in the playoffs again and have one last shot at a world championship is just sad. It is just disappointing, and it's the reason he came back, and it's the reason Andy Pettitte came back. It's the reason so many players want to play here. And now that opportunity is taken away for this season, and I would say for at least a couple of seasons in the future, what do you have? What do you have? I mean, what team, what appeal does the Yankees bring? There will always be teams that can offer a lot of money. So I think that argument is kind of stupid. I think, if a team really wanted to, they could outbid the Yankees this offseason for Robinson Cano. That's just my personal opinion. But, I just don't see where this team goes for the future and where it goes right now. So, with that off my chest, I guess we can get into some news here on the podcast. Um, as I said, Derek Jeter has gone back on the disabled list. Um, as I said, this season's lost, so it's not as if, oh, now we're definitely not making the playoffs. But it is hard to watch this happen to Derek Jeter, such a terrific Yankee, the captain of the team. Um, it's one thing, be injured and miss the whole year, but he's teased us now with two comebacks, and I was at the game on July 11th when he DH'd and had the original quad strain, but he means so much to the team, and perhaps if he was around the whole year, things might have been different, but you can't think that way. Hindsight is wonderful, isn't it? But now he comes back off the not the calf injury. He comes back off the quad injury. Hits a home run on the first pitch he sees in the first at bat. To me, as I said in the podcast last week, I thought he looked good. I mean, you can't see every single second he's playing shortstop, on a game broadcast, but when he was batting, he had a lot of good at bats. He fouled off a lot of pitches. He stayed in there. He looked strong. He made a few plays at short rather flawlessly. He made one or two mishaps here or there, but I mean, nothing to get on him about. To me, I really didn't think that he would be hurt. I remember him saying he was tired when the Yankees played that extra inning game, I think in San Diego. So I know. I mean that should have been a red flag, maybe that he played a little too much that night. But that to hear he has now a calf strain, and it's just you really have to think. I mean, Derek Jeter will never go out to injury. He is going to play as long as he can physically get on the field, even if he isn't necessarily healthy or a real, contributor to the team. I fully expect, even if he isn't even if he isn't the same player next season or whenever he does decide to retire, that he will get the same send-off or similar send-off that Mariano Rivera has gotten. I don't think he'll retire this offseason, you know what I mean? So, but I think this season definitely has to bring Jeter's mortality into question. Because last season, how great he played, we almost bought into the belief that, he can play forever. He'll always be the 300 hitting, Gold Glove shortstop. And it's simply not the case. Yankee fans are, we were all shocked when Jeter first broke his ankle. But the fact is, these things happen to guys who have been around for so long. At some point, the Yankees are lucky to have guys like Mariano Rivera and Jeter, and of course, and Andy Pettitte and Posada, guys who haven't taken a decline of any dramatic sort in their careers. They were always productive contributors. They were always the core of the team, and most veterans their age, it gets ugly towards the end. It really does. They're just not the same player again. They as is the case with Derek right now, the body just starts shutting down on you. You're injured constantly when you can get on the field, and you simply aren't the same. So I mean, it's disappointing to watch, but it's not the first time that this has happened to such a big legend and a great Yankee. And as I said, I don't expect him to retire because of injuries. I do think he'll try very hard to train in the off season and have a normal workout, and because maybe that you can maybe make the argument that attributed to it that he was rehabbing from the ankle injury instead of actually working out for the baseball season, and then didn't have a really legit spring training. So I mean, there are aspects that you can say that, okay, maybe his body isn't shutting down on him, maybe he's simply not conditioned the same way he has been his whole career. So I mean, maybe that's the argument, but I think that the days of Derek Jeter playing like we've all come to see Derek Jeter play is over. So, hopefully he can get back on the field this season. When he does, great, but as I said, I don't expect it to make that much of a difference. So, wow, when's the last time A-Rod was actually one of the, second or third topics I talked about or anyone talked about on a show? He's always been the center of attention, but can't avoid bringing him up. As I said, he did return to the Yankees lineup against the White Sox. We all know with the suspension and everything like that, that's just been a mess. But, he looked good. As I said, I mean, I'm not a fan of A-Rod, but I'm a fan of what he brings to the team. So, he looked good. He had a few long at-bats, saw a lot of pitches, got a few hits, made, I think, every chance at third base that he was given. So, I mean, I don't like the guy, but it was refreshing to see him back. The Yankees have a legitimate third baseman now who can play almost every night and actually produce and be a threat in the middle of the lineup. I mean, the baseball side is good, but of course, tonight the Yankees open up a 3-game set with the Detroit Tigers at Yankee Stadium. It'll be A-Rod's triumphant return to New York. I am anxiously awaiting tonight's game to start and see the type of ovation A-Rod receives, and just to see him back in the Yankee pinstripes instead of the road grays. Because I think we all really thought for a while, when the suspension talk first started coming up about a month and a half ago, that, wow, maybe A-Rod really won't play again. And even last October, ironically enough, against the Tigers, we all felt that this was the end of A-Rod before we found out he was injured, before we found out about the biogenesis stuff. We all thought he was just simply going to get traded or cut or something because he just looked finished. So to see him back at Yankee Stadium in the pinstripes, playing third base, against the very team that we all thought ended his career, it's great. It's so storybook-esque, you know what I mean? And no matter the ovation, I'm not making a big deal out of it. I want to see, the way the crowd receives him, but after that, who really cares? People are making it the center of conversation. Who cares how the fans think of him? If he can play well, fans are going to like him more. Fans are going to cheer for him. They're going to cheer if he hits a home run, and they're going to boo if he strikes out. The same thing it's always been. So, I think hopefully, as I said, he wasn't the center of the tension this week. He really wasn't after the first game. So, to finally be shifting away from the biogenesis talk and just talk about A-Rod playing baseball, I think that's a really refreshing thing, and I'm open to talking about Alex Rodriguez all the time as long as it pertains to what he's doing on the baseball field. So as I said, though, the Yankees are opening up a 3-game set against the Tigers, and you heard my monologue and my rant. I am not confident in this Yankees team, but if they are somehow going to turn it around, it has to start immediately, and it has to start tonight against one of the best teams in baseball. Of course, the Tigers, as I said, have won 13 straight, and tonight's game, the pitching matchup, I would say, is in their favor. Ivan Nova going up against Rick Porcello. Nova's looked like a stud in his, really, the past 10, 15 starts. He's looked very, very good. If he's made 15 starts, I don't even really know. He's made 13 starts. But really, since he first came back up from the minor leagues, he's looked amazing. Rick Porcello, I think, has been pretty good actually recently. 4-0 with a 1.87 ERA. So he's not necessarily, his numbers don't look great, but he has figured himself out, and he is actually also a very strong pitcher that is going tonight. They look at tomorrow, 1:05 p.m. game. It would be Anibal Sanchez against Phil Hughes. Sanchez has had a terrific season so far, 2.58 ERA. Hughes, as we all know, has just been atrocious. I mean, so I expect a loss there. And then Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon, it'll be Justin Verlander against Andy Pettitte. So we all know how bad Andy struggled, and even though Verlander is not the same pitcher, it's not that he's the same pitcher, he's just not having that good a year compared to the past few seasons. He's had, I think, Yeah, he was just coming off an 8-inning start. He touched 100 miles an hour in that 8th inning. He still has amazing stuff. He still can throw a no-hitter on any given day. If I'd have to make a prediction, I say the Yankees lose 2 out of 3 here. I mean, their offense just cannot compete with the Tigers, and the pitching matchups just don't really shake out in the Yankees' favor aside from tonight. And you can hear it in my voice. It's not that I don't care. I don't see any way this team makes the playoffs or really returns back to a legitimate force at least, or a threat. It would be really unfortunate if the Yankees get swept here. But they got swept by the White Sox, so I guess anything can happen. But they're one game over 500. If they fall to if they fall to 500 and then under 500, I think the panic officially sets in, and the worry and the doubt and the playoff dreams all come crashing down. And I think I said last week that this the White Sox and the Padres series would shape their season, so I think it's over. But hey, winning 2 out of 3 against the best team in baseball the past few weeks would feel pretty good. So, I mean, getting on to another topic, I guess, also pertaining to A-Rod, I guess. Johnny Damon, former Yankee and former Boston Red Sox, of course, before joining the Yankees, made some pretty interesting comments the other day. He was always known to be a friend of A-Rod and a very likable guy, and Damon basically came out and said on MLB Network Radio that, in his mind, the Yankees' 2009 World Series title would absolutely be diminished if it were announced and proven that A-Rod was taking steroids during that season, and especially that October run they went on. Here's his quote. He said, "I really haven't gotten to think that far, but if that's how he was able to hit in the postseason like he did that year, then yeah, absolutely." Then you start going, was anybody on another team cheating? There's just so many different factors that determine if a team wins, and A-Rod was a huge determining factor. He played a pretty huge part. A lot of fans are really attacking Damon and against him and really mad that he made these comments. Personally, I'm indifferent, but I was welcomed by this coming out, because I really don't get why Yankee fans are able to just, maybe it's just me, it probably is, but I can't turn a blind eye anymore. And if it does come out that A-Rod was using in 2009, that does change my perception of the season. That changes everything. I mean, maybe not everything. It definitely was a great season, and many other moments not involving Alex Rodriguez took place. I was at Game 6 of the World Series when the Yankees won and beat the Phillies, and Matsui was the MVP. It was a glorious moment, a glorious season. But maybe it's just me, as I said, but I cannot, I would not be able to look at that postseason the same way again if I know that A-Rod was cheating. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. It's not a huge story at all, but it's just people who are unfazed by it, I guess, just really don't care about PEDs in baseball. But because that title was really special to me personally, I followed that season very intently. It was the first championship season I ever remembered for the Yankees, and it was a special year. And I really liked A-Rod that year. I gave him a second chance after he admitted to taking steroids. I gave him a second chance. He asked for it. I gave him one, and if it comes out that he, I do think he did PEDs again, but once it's officially announced that Alex was using, especially in October of 2009, that would just make me very, very disappointed in him and disappointed in myself for really believing and having faith that he was a changed guy. So, on that note, I guess we're going to wrap up the podcast for now. As I said, I am not confident in this Yankees team. They are not playoff caliber. This week proved it, absolutely. Anyone wants to argue with me about that, feel free, but I don't see any way this team makes it into October. It's a shame Jeter's injured again. It's good A-Rod's back, but facing the Tigers and the Angels coming up, I can only see this getting worse from here on out, unless they start making changes and accept their fate and play their youth and try to just get an idea of what they have for the future. Because certainly the present Yankees club is not anywhere near having a parade down the Canyon of Heroes. So that will wrap it up, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you all enjoyed. And let's go Yankees. Let's hope they can somehow salvage this season. But, as you guys all know, I don't see it happening. So see you guys all next time. And, yeah, this has been the Interlocking NY podcast.